so much for coming to our Understanding Senior Depression workshop. We're families coming together, and I know that it's hard to take time out of your busy day, but we really appreciate you taking the time to come today and learn how you can better help your family. In our workshop, we'll be having a quick icebreaker to get to know each other, and we'll be asking each other a few questions. I'm going to talk about families coming together, common misconceptions that we may have or others may have about senior depression. We're going to learn how to talk to loved ones, as well as treatment options that are available for seniors that may be suffering from depression. And at the end, we'll open it for questions and take a big chunk of time doing that. And I'll give you some contact information so that you can ask questions later as well. So an overview of us, we are families coming together, and our mission is to help families help their loved ones that are suffering with senior depression. By 2030, more than 72 million people in the United States, more than 1 in 3 residents will be aged 65 and older. That is 13.5% of elderly have been diagnosed with depression. To me, that is astronomical. With that in mind, suicide rates are also growing. In 2004, people aged 65 and older accounted for 16% of all suicide deaths in the United States, even though they comprised only 12% of the population. See, that is what's scary to us, is that the rate of suicide among the elderly is so high. This is more than any other age group. Why isn't more action being taken to prevent this? Families Coming Together is educating families to help prevent suicide rates from climbing among the elderly. If we talk to our family members and become more aware, we will start to see those rates decrease. So just you coming today and learning how you can help your loved one is a huge step towards preventing more suicides among the elderly. So let's start with an icebreaker. You're going to turn to the person next to you and ask them 3 questions. So the first question is, what is your favorite vacation spot? Now that you've all answered that, the next question is, where did you grow up? And the third question is, why did you come here today? And I'd like to open it up to all of you to share something interesting that you learned about the person next to you. Does anyone have anything interesting that they learned? Thank you. So, here's a story about Mr. Chalmers. 2 years ago, Mr. Chalmers was diagnosed with early Alzheimer's at age 68. After 6 months of suffering, he was also diagnosed with depression, which he thought was the usual grief of aging. He didn't know how to handle this new stage of life, and it was harder to cope with the lack of mental awareness. His family took it upon themselves to help him know that they cared. They would visit twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. The visits weren't anything big, but they were enough to show him that they cared. Mr. Chalmers said, "Having a support through this difficult time of life is what I needed to cope with the everyday trials of aging." So it's his family that helped him know that he had worth and that he could get through this hard time. Not that he could overcome it, but that he could get through it. Here are some common misconceptions about elderly depression that we should just get out of the way and educate others about these misconceptions. The first misconception is that if you never had depression in your younger years, you won't get it in your older years. This is completely false. A person that has never had depression in their younger years can develop it in their older years. It doesn't matter how old you are, you can still develop depression. Another misconception is that all symptoms of depression are the same. This isn't true either. The symptoms of elderly depression can be very different from person to person, and this is especially true in regards to Alzheimer's or dementia. The symptoms of depression will vary greatly. And the elderly are facing a public health crisis which is not being addressed like it should. Many people think that a lot of the signs of elderly depression are simply signs of aging, when it isn't true at all. They need to take it seriously and help their family member. So let's talk about how we can help them and how we can talk to them. First things first, we need to let them know that we care and that you care about their well-being. This can be shown by simply visiting them often, or even better, you can tell them that you care and that you're there for them and that you want them to feel good and healthy mentally. Even though they may be suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, it's still important for them to know that you care. It's also extremely important that they are in an environment where they are comfortable. With aging, you can be very uncomfortable in your new home, which may be assisted living home, or you may even be uncomfortable in your own home. But it's important that they feel that they can open up and be themselves where they are at. So with that, ask them how they are feeling about their circumstances. And these are great ways to talk to your loved one and understand how they are feeling. You can ask them, how do you feel on a day-to-day basis? Not only physically, but how are you feeling mentally? Are you feeling down? Are you feeling like you don't want to meet new people? Or just, have you had the blues for a couple months? It's getting to those questions and letting them understand that you're there for them and you have their best interest in mind. If you do feel that they may be suffering from depression and you've seen the doctor, some options of treatment are therapy. People who think that therapy is only for the young and those in their midlife, but that's not true. Therapy can be for anyone. I don't know if a baby needs therapy, but anyone up to their 90s even. Everyone can use therapy, and you can have individual therapy, one-on-one with your therapist, or even group therapy, which can be highly beneficial. Another option of treatment is medication. However, medication can be a bit tricky with the elderly because sometimes their medication can have side effects that affect their overall physical health, but the doctor will know what they need. Another option is meditation. One very beneficial treatment is mindful meditation and being more mindful about your circumstances. However, this one is also tricky because it's difficult if you aren't exactly sure about your circumstances or where you are, but your trained professional will know which route is best for your loved one. So this is the most important time, is where I open it up to you all and you ask questions that you may have or concerns, and we can address them together, and most importantly, we can discuss them as a group. And I can hear anything that has worked for your family or someone that you know, and we can discuss it together. And if you think of any questions later that you may have or would like to discuss them privately, you can always email me or call me, and I'm always there to help. So here's the time for you to open your questions. Alright everyone, thank you so much for sharing all the knowledge that you have and telling me and everyone here what's worked for you, or your concerns, and we really appreciate the time that you've taken to learn how to better help your family member that may be suffering with depression or may not. But you are more aware, and that's what matters. And I hope that with this and sharing what you've learned, we can help lower those suicide rates among the elderly, and we can help people overcome their depression. Thank you so much.